Welcome back to the Teacher's Wake Up Call, and here's hoping my mic doesn't give out, because last week there was a high-pitched squeal, and then the mic decided not to work, but I tested it this weekend, so it should be working. So, time for a sip of coffee. I'm going to try and keep it short, because I was ready to go full righteous indignation mode. I was ready to go that route for the topic I'm about to talk about. So we all know the state of our schools in this province, right? And a lot of teachers have spoken about it. A lot of teachers have pointed it out. Heck, even some government officials spoke about it. I've been teaching since 1998, and there has not been a time when it was not discussed. How the buildings are failing, the buildings are crumbling, there's asbestos in this one, there's no clean water in another, the air quality is horrible in one school, the paint's full of lead in another. You know, I've seen my fair share of stuff and heard my fair share of stuff. And every year, you've got a new politician promising us money, promising us this and that and whatnot. And it always feels like our concerns are falling on deaf ears. Right? And I'm not talking about the everybody's favorite complaint, like there should be AC in the school. I get it. We're not open year round, okay? And I understand how it's, it can be costly to run AC for maybe a couple of weeks. I get it. But we're getting to a point where climate change is actually affecting our well-being. I have never in my entire career been in a classroom where the temperature went over 30, and it has happened. Or it came really, really close, like 29.6. Are we really counting the decimals? But we are. So a few years back, I can't exactly remember when, the government or some kind of think tank, I can't exactly remember what, because I'm of that age, okay, decided to hire or to employ or to ask for their expertise 4 or 5 different known personalities in the Quebec social-cultural milieu to investigate and see what can be improved in education, and to think about, the ideal school. Because, building a new school is way more interesting than repairing the ones that we have in place. So recently, but I mean recently, I mean this past weekend, a new documentary came out on Ici Tout TV, entitled L'école. Voyons, I have to look up the title again. Hold on. I'm going to look the title up again. Yes. École sous pression, schools under pressure. And it's basically one of those celebrities, one of those personalities, the equivalent of Jamie Oliver or Bobby Flay in the province, Ricardo Lavallée. I believe it's Lavallée, his family name. Yeah, I think so, yeah. And he talks about the state of our schools. So when I first heard about this last week, I was royally pissed. I was like, oh really? They won't listen to teachers who deal with this. They won't listen to administrators who deal with this on a daily basis. But we are going to give all of our collective media attention to a trained professional chef who's a businessman, but I'm getting to the but in a moment, whose job is just to go and visit the schools and to see what's going on, and to come back with his impressions. I mean, full disclosure, I haven't seen the documentary. I haven't seen, but like, I'm probably going to watch it because I do believe it's important to see how it is elsewhere, because I fully recognize that I am very privileged. School's not falling to pieces. I've got a classroom with windows that can open, and I've got lovely, clean, crisp air coming into my classroom. You know, first world problems. I could go for a new set of desks and chairs, but you know, I'm not complaining. And I'm certainly not complaining about the school board. I am not complaining about the school board. I feel that this, where I am working and when I am working, because it's not just the where, it's when, I feel that I am supported. At least in my case, I realize it's not like that for everyone. I'm supported. When I need help, help is there. And even when I don't need help, you know, I get the help that I need. Whether it's physical help, whether it's mental help, you know, I feel supported, okay? Knock on wood. So I am going to watch the documentary, but I was so mightily pissed last week when I first heard about this. It's like, really? Really, we are going to listen to a trained professional chef who's a businessman, whose products can be found in grocery stores. That's why I compared him to like Jamie Oliver and Bobby Flay, all right, okay? Because he apparently has, you know, a better opinion, or opinion that will be listened to by our elected officials. Meanwhile, teachers have been talking about this nonstop. Like, I've been teaching for almost 30 years. Almost 30 years. I've been teaching for almost 30 years. And you're telling me that his opinion is worth more than ours? Really? So I was out of my mind upset about this. Not necessarily upset at Ricardo, but like, for real? We need to do a documentary about this? And things are going to change. Things are going to change. Oh, they're going to build a new school. They're going to build a new school. The new government's going to build a new school. They're going to cut another ribbon, and yay! But they're not going to spend money. Like, I don't know how much money they spent on some of the new schools that I visited in the last year or so. I visited one new school. But I'm wondering how much of that money could have been spent on repairing other schools that do need it, right? It's like, oh, you know, the population's increasing. Yeah, I know, but maybe if you repair the schools that need the space, whose spaces have been condemned because, you know, the ceilings are falling apart, the walls are falling apart, we can't open the windows. What if we repaired those schools that are falling apart? Maybe we didn't have to build a new school to welcome and house all of these new students, right? Right? I mean, my thinking might be odd. My thinking, you know what, I've only been teaching for 28 years. My thinking might be a bit skewed. Who knows? So these were all of the thoughts that were going through my head on Thursday. And over the weekend, during our conference, I was talking to my dear colleague, Marc Albert, and he, I shared, like, I need to film some content. I've got some righteous indignation to share. And I told him about what. And I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said, Ricardo is actually very well placed to talk about this. I'm going, oh, really? Yeah, apparently he's actually worked in schools. He wanted to help the nutritional, the health, the well-being of students in Quebec schools, and devised a nutritional program to offer to students. And he was involved in these schools, and he was implicated. He got involved. So he was on the front lines, so to speak. And in his very, very, in a typical Marc Albert way, my good friend, my colleague, my director general, like took the wind out all of my righteous indignation. So I was a bit annoyed. It's like, why? Why are you like dousing water on my flame, on my passionate anger? And he said, he's an ally. He's an ally. He is someone who is not a teacher, who is fighting for us. To which I replied, yeah, but you know what? Gay and LGBTQ rights, there have been changes, there's been progress, there's been good things that have happened, you know, in regards to gay and LGBTQ rights. But if we had only listened to the allies, I don't think the LGBTQ community would have felt seen, right? It can't just come from the allies, I told him. He agreed with me, but he still said, you shouldn't be poo-pooing, and once again I'm paraphrasing, these are not his words. You know, I shouldn't be poo-pooing what Ricardo has been doing for us and education. I'm still not completely, I'm not 100% in agreement. I see now a different perspective. I'm still annoyed. I'm still annoyed because how many more documentaries do we need for change to happen, right? How many more allies do we need to point out that, you know what, maybe we should repair what we have? Maybe we should invest more in this? And I'm not talking about putting AC in all the schools, okay? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the bare necessities. I'm talking about basic things. And once again, this is not the school board's responsibility because they are often working with their hands tied, right? Like if some administrators can't find the funds to repair, you know, windows that can't be opened because it is like, you know, the structure will fall apart, it's not their job. And they don't open a drawer and find money in there. It has to come from up above. So I understand and I feel the board's pressures and constraints. So, but do we need more allies talking about this? Journalists have been talking about it. They're our allies. And do we need more public figures? Some of you will say, yes, we need more public figures because the more attention it gets, the quicker change will come. Why do I have a feeling I'm going to retire and nothing will have happened? See? I don't know. And once again, I fully recognize that where I am right now in my career, when I am in my career, I am very lucky. I also understand why young teachers would not want to stay in the profession. And I'm not talking about the psychological and mental reasons why teachers don't want to continue teaching. I'm talking about working in the physical space. Do you want to work in a space where it's like 30 degrees? I don't. My health won't allow it. So what will make that will that be enticing for new teachers? Like, hey, you know, like 2-3 weeks to maybe like almost 2 months like during the year, you're going to have to work in like 28, 29 degree environment. And you're going to have to teach kids who are literally sweating and snotting everywhere. Like, please. I don't think new teachers want that. And I'm not trying to discourage because some people have that passion, have that energy. But we are at a point where we're wondering why we can't retain new teachers, why we can't recruit new teachers. Well, I think the physical space is also a reason. And those are one of the factors that make people want to stay where they're working, right? Am I wrong in thinking that way? Anyway, those are my thoughts, my tempered righteous indignation for the day. Oh, and to that kid who said that, am I going to be publishing new content? There you go. Have yourselves an awesome day.